Today we're going to take a look at this Sirui 24mm Anamorphic lens and see what this lens can do and cannot do. Hey, how's it going, guys? Hope you guys are having a fantastic start of the year because Sirui has done it again. They have released a third budget anamorphic lens. And that's how it feels to film with this 24mm lens. Little disclaimer though, I'm not insinuating that they're going to release 3 more lenses right now and like snap to make half of your savings disappear. However, they did send me this lens for free to review, but as usual, they're not paying for this video, so these observations and opinions are of my own. Now that's out of the way, I'm going to break this video down into 2 parts. First part is pros, as in what I like about this lens, and the second part is cons, as in limitation you should be aware of before buying this lens. Also, as usual, I'll share with you how I get around these limitations. And since I talked a lot about the basics of Sirui anamorphic characteristics, including how to easily change the strong blue flare colors in my first Sirui video right here, if you guys want to check that out. For this one, I'm going to skip over the basics and let's get right into talking about the first thing I like about this lens. And that is how sharp the image is, especially in the center. I went ahead and conducted my official Sharpy test, and it's very similar to Sirui 35mm and comes close to Sigma 24-70 DG/DN Sony E mount, which is a very sharp lens. Edges of the image, however, we'll talk more about that on the con section later. Second thing I like about this lens is how wide and epic things look. Yes, it's obviously wider than a 35mm, but there's more to it than the numbers. So this is a crop sensor lens, as you probably know. Traditionally, 24mm crop sensor lens would look like a 35 to 36mm equivalent on a full frame camera. But since this is a 2.4:1 aspect ratio lens with a 1.33 squeeze, so basically the field of view is about 27mm on a full frame, but with the anamorphic widescreen look. It just looks epic when you're trying to introduce the scene. Now, if you ever vlogged before, you'll know that's right around the sweet spot to like show your entire face on a frame. Which brings me to the next thing I like. The minimal focus distance for this lens is now 0.6 meters, so basically 2 feet, which is exactly about the length of your arm unless you're a T-Rex. What I'm saying is, if you want to, you could finally vlog with the anamorphic lens. That could be a new thing. This is much improved over the previous 35mm, which had a massive 0.85 meter minimum focus distance. I mean, it's really a good social distancing lens. Bro, you're too close. I can't focus on you. Get back. Fourth thing I like about this lens is the bokeh characteristics. When I first read the specs, I was a little concerned because I saw that 24mm had 8 aperture blades versus the 10 on the 35mm. After filming with it though, I didn't see any jagged edge bokehs and out of focus area blur into the focus area very nicely. Yeah, it would have been nice if this lens was f1.8, but because of the close focus distance, you're able to get some nice bokeh at f2.8. And just like the 35mm, you're not gonna find very tall oval-shaped bokeh since this is a 1.33 squeeze. But overall, it has a very unique look, mostly due to the last thing I like about this lens, which is the anamorphic lens flare. The flare characteristics are very similar to the 35mm, it's just smaller and thinner, but the key for me was that it wasn't overpowering the footage. It tends to only flare when lights are shining directly into the lens, and it rarely washes the whole image out. However, there are some things you have to be aware about this lens flare since this is a wide angle lens. So first con of this lens is the curved edge distortion. Most wide angle lenses cannot maintain a perfectly straight image on the edge, but it becomes a little bit more obvious when there's a line of anamorphic lens flare going straight through the image. It can be problematic when you're trying to show like a tall building and the pillars look curved. There is a solution though. On Premiere Pro, you could apply the lens distortion effect. I found that for most building shots with this 24mm, -6 curvature and -1 horizon prism effects worked well. I'll leave a timeline with the chapters in this video, so if you guys want to come back to check out that setting, it'll be right there. Second thing I didn't like about this lens is actually something I like about this lens. I know it's confusing, right? Let me explain. Yes, the minimum focus distance got better with the 24mm, but it still wasn't enough to get like a detailed product shot. Even the Hollywood level Cook 25 or RE 28mm minimum focus distance about 2 feet. So this is just the nature of anamorphic lenses, but with this lens, I was able to get a fairly cheap diopter kit. So this is the kit I'm talking about. This is a Vivitar diopter kit. It comes with 4 different strengths of diopters, and with this you can get real close to the product while maintaining the anamorphic look. The lens flare does get thicker, but you get some cool additional flare characteristics. Only thing you will lose with these diopters is the ability to focus like far away. Your focus range like shrinks down to just like centimeters, so these diopters are only meant for like close subjects. I'll leave a link to this exact one that fits the Sirui 24mm down in the description below if you guys want to check it out. Third thing you should be aware of is that there's going to be like some chromatic aberration on the edges when wide open. Here's an edge comparison between Sirui 35mm and 24mm, both at f2.8. You can definitely see there's more purple fringing. Just for comparison, here's 35mm wide open at f1.8, and 24mm, although sharp, still has more chromatic aberration on the edges. Center image, on the other hand, it is clean even at wide open, so it's not a huge concern, especially since I can just put an adjustment layer over the edges and sample that purplish color in the lumetri color hue versus saturation under curves, and just bump up that saturation down, and voila. And you guys probably noticed that there are some color temperature difference in these Sirui anamorphic lenses. So on the 24mm, Sirui did cool the lens down a little bit compared to the 35mm, but it is still a little bit on the warm side. So for this issue, I could just shoot auto white balance, or just know that you have to fix it in post. Just fix it in post. All right, next couple cons is not really a problem for me, but it may be a limitation for some of you guys, so we'll go over those. The mount options opened up for Fuji users again since Sirui ditched the adapter method from the 35mm. So there are some physical things missing from the last design. This 24mm now has a fixed mount design, and it doesn't like ship with these optional mount adapters. It does make the lens more solid, but anyone with 2 different mounts may be disappointed. Also, there isn't a great Canon lens mount solution out there out of the box other than the Canon EF-M mount. Does anyone use Canon EF-M mount? Let me know. So what if you have Canon RF mount? Well, I have good news for you. A UK company named MTF Services have been making this RF mount conversion kit for Sirui lenses. They don't have one for the 24mm yet, but obviously if there's a demand, they'll probably make this kit. I'll leave the Cine article about these conversion kits in the description below, so that's kind of exciting. I should also mention that Sirui did get rid of this like custom fitted focus ring, so you'll have to use your own adjustable one like this. Next con for some people is the weight of this lens. It's not that this lens is huge like the Cook anamorphic lens, it's just that compared to the 35mm, which is 700 grams, this 24mm is 780 grams. For your reference, Sony 16-35 G Master lens is 680 grams. Why is this a problem for some? Since the weight distribution is very front heavy with this lens, this may not balance inside your small gimbal depending on your setup. You have to check your own gimbal setup, but I can tell you if you're trying to balance this with Sony full frame cameras, it's definitely not going to fit the first generation Ronin SC. Inside Weeble it's close, but it does balance and operate well. So you probably have guessed it by now, I do use Sony's full frame camera with this crop sensor lens. I think we all wish full frame Sirui anamorphic lens came sooner, but you can still make this work right now. I have a Sony A7 III and A7S III, but A7S III doesn't have that super 35mm aps-c crop mode, so here's the little trick for that. When you turn on the active stabilization mode on the A7S III, it crops in 1.1 times, but it doesn't lose the quality since 12.1 megapixel is slightly larger than 4K video. It's downsampling from a full sensor resolution. So that's step 1. Step 2 is using clear image zoom and zooming the rest of the way. If you zoom in a little bit more than 1.3 times after that IBIS crop instead of the standard 1.5 times, you'll be getting a slightly sharper, wider field of view and still get rid of that vignetting. Only annoying thing is that you have to like clear image zoom every time you turn off and turn on the camera, but with A7S III's almost non-existing rolling shutter and with low light capabilities, this lens is just butter. Can we still say butter in 2021? So it may seem like I cover more cons than pros, but it's just because the nature of this channel is to cover topics that are not commonly talked about. I know overall on YouTube, there's gonna be like plenty of videos praising this lens. This is a fantastic lens. I'll leave a link in the description below so you guys can check out the latest prices and deals, but the price is just a bonus. This is beyond budget anamorphic solution and a lot of fun to film with. I think this is a great addition if you already have the Sirui 50mm or 35mm or both. If you're just looking for your first budget anamorphic lens, I think 35mm is still a good all-around lens with more defined anamorphic characteristics. I'll upload more 24mm sample footage for you guys to watch in the future, so until next time, stay stretchy my friends. Later.